take their money so we can have a better life.
You lost yourself in this performance. Like, I can kind of see it right now because the hair's a little bit longer, but every performance I've seen from you prior to this, you look so much like yourself physically in your roles. Did you find it a little bit easier to get immersed in Robbie, given that he was so different from you from a physical standpoint?
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Yeah, I mean, I just, in a heart sense, in a motivation sense, I felt so simpatico with him. I felt so bonded and close to him that it was fun to kind of flesh out a very different appearance, you know? That's interesting. The way you asked that question, I never really thought about that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, he does end up quite different, doesn't he?
I would say so. Yeah, Brad's writing on this series is phenomenal. I mean, anyone who's known Brad's work over the years, from Mayor of Easttown or even earlier this year with Echo Valley, knows he's so good at these character-driven pieces. When he approached you with the script, or however you got involved with this process, what did that look like? And did the script, when you first saw it, at all evolve once you put your own stamp on it?
Well, first of all, I loved it immediately. It was an immediate, resounding, absolute yes. I felt like I understood Robbie deeply, very quickly, in a way that doesn't happen all the time. You know, like, some characters are a mystery and you really need to work on them, and some worlds are a bit of a mystery and you're really struggling to understand the tone and what your palette is, or like what's possible. And I didn't have any of those hesitations reading Task. Like, I knew immediately the world. It reminded me of the world I grew up in, and I felt like I immediately understood the character in a way, and so my answer was an immediate yes. I'm also a fan of Brad. I saw Mayor of Easttown when it came out. I was obsessed with it, like pretty much everybody was. I love his movies. You know, I not recently, I guess, but, you know, watched The Way Back. And I'm so struck always with his work, how he loves people. He loves people and he loves his characters, but he also doesn't let them off the hook. You know, he'll give you the truth of them in a way that's very brave. And I think ultimately very moving, and I think ultimately earns the respect of the audience. You know, when you see Ben Affleck's character in The Way Back, there's some just bad behavior in there, and Brad doesn't judge it. He just says, here it is, you know, and it's beautiful. As an actor, that's exactly where you want to be. Like, we're not trying to manipulate anything. We're not trying to defend anybody or lead the audience one way or another. What if I just showed you these people making decisions that are good and bad? What if we tied that all together in an interesting way? I think Brad does that better than almost anybody, and it's a lot of fun as an actor to work in that space.
A parallel I see with a lot of his characters is they kind of follow that trope of one bad day. They spiral. They're not who they are in episode 5 compared to where they were in episode 1. Where we start with Robbie, I remember watching the first episode and being like, this is a pretty simple operation that he's running from a criminal standpoint. Like, how are we gonna get to a level where it gets to that Mayor of Easttown scope? And we get there pretty quickly. How did you get immersed into the character of Robbie, going down that trajectory of spiraling? One bad decision leads to another, and next thing you know, you're at point Z, and you didn't even realize how you left point A.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think the most important thing with all of this is being clear about where you start. You know, like being clear about why he's doing anything. Before it gets out of hand, why is he doing any part of this? And to me, that was crystal clear. And also, having just become a father myself, it was infinitely relatable. He is doing what he's doing for his children, and he will do anything for their sake. And I, Tom, understood, one, how true that could be, and that could lead to almost anything. Like, in my heart, I knew it. And so that was that was the most important thing, to like understand why he's doing what he's doing, to keep that alive all the time, to like, for me, was constantly understanding Robbie and seeing him and feeling him through that lens. And then it's just a matter of how far out of control did the circumstances get, you know? And so that everything is constantly oriented back to that North Star of like, why am I doing this? Why am I keeping this up? How am I justifying this next choice? Well, because it falls under the scope and in the line of, I'm doing everything I need to do for my kids. And Brad never let you down in that regard. You know, like he'll never sacrifice the character for the plot, which is where you want to live as an actor. You know, it's the kind of writer you want to be around. It's because there's other times where people are more interested in doing something cool and they don't really care about the character. Brad doesn't feel that way, and I, you know, I think I love that about him. I think a lot of people love it about him. It's probably why all the actors want to work with him.
Mm-hmm. Something you said that piqued my interest was the fact that he does everything for his children. Yeah. The character of Robbie. Sam almost becomes, I feel like, a responsibility of his, whether he wants it or not. He knows what he's just committed, and he knows the circumstance he's put this kid in, and I feel like he bears a bit of that responsibility as a father figure, so to speak. And I wouldn't call Robbie a violent by nature individual, because every time he's violent in this series, I feel like it's because of a fight or flight reaction. Would you echo that sentiment?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think he's quite capable of violence, but I think when I think of him, the images that come to mind are smiling and laughing. Like I think that there's a joy to him, a bit of a wild joy, but a joy to him that's his primary. You know, we don't get to spend much time with that version of him in the show, but it was the most compelling version of him to me as the actor, and that's what I wanted to keep alive, so that everything becomes a variation of that, versus approaching it like this is a violent, scary guy who also is sometimes funny. It didn't ever feel true to me. It felt like this is a lovely, weird, silly, funny, happy human being who's actually quite positive in his thinking and in his actions, who gets dragged into things, who's reactive to things, who's definitely has very little patience and can be a hothead for sure. But yes, you're right. I always felt like those were secondary things and not the core of who he was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something that always fascinates me too about these characters who go down these wrong paths are those moments where they have happiness, where you can see that there is a way for them to tap into a happy side of themselves. And something that always happened with Robbie, where he was happy, is when he's going swimming. Like the scenes I saw of him like jumping into the lake, or there's a flashback as well. What does swimming mean to Robbie, from your perspective, if anything at all?
I mean, look, the way I'm going to answer this was, personally, I did a play in Vermont once, years ago, and I had my dog with me, Sasha, and there was a quarry in town, and it became my favorite thing to do. And I'd go with my dog, and we would go and we would climb up the stairs and jump off the rock together. She would follow me.
You and the dog.
Jump off with me, 100%. And then she'd swim with me. And there was one day, I'm gonna cry because I don't have this dog anymore. But there was one day we were doing this in between shows. I had a matinee and I had a night show. We went to the quarry like we always did. And we were jumping in together and swimming. An older gentleman came up to me, who I didn't know, and said, "Young man, it has been such a pleasure watching you with your dog today." And never forget it. Obviously had a strong impact on me. And there's something about it that's so free and so wild, like jumping into a quarry. Like, it's not a pool. You can't see the bottom. It's a little mysterious. It feels a little risky, but it feels so primal and like grounded and fun. And yeah, I mean, that memory I have with my dog is kind of heaven in a way. And the fact that that's kind of Robbie's special place always made perfect sense to me.
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that anecdote. That's
Yeah.
that's a beautiful, beautiful story. It's not the only place that you put part of yourself into this role. I was reading that you grew up in South Jersey, so you're not too far from Delco.
Yeah.
You know this accent. You know the direction you wanted to take the accent.
Well, I learned the accent.
Okay.
I didn't know it. No, the confusing thing is like there's parts of the accent that I grew up with that are the same.
Sure.
But then there's half of it is completely different. It's like out of nowhere. Like I say water to this day. That's just how I say water. Somebody's like water. I'm like, that's I can't do that. But then like the O sounds and some of the other vowel sounds of the Delco accent are so strange to me. So no, this accent was causing me a good bit of insomnia. It was actually more confusing because of the similarities. Because there were things that were similar that I still speak to this day, I kept finding myself getting pulled into saying it how I would say it and often being wrong before we started filming. So I had to spend many hours trying to learn this puppy.
Yeah, that's the difficulty when it's so similar that it confuses you. I tried to learn Italian in college. I couldn't do it because I knew Spanish growing up.
There
that was
you go.
my second language. And
Yeah.
they're so similar, and it's hard to distinguish the two. So
Yes.
I can somewhat picture your headspace going through this.
Right, versus being in an accent that you have no point of reference for, that's completely different from how you talk, and you can learn fresh all the rules. This one is like half of your rules still apply. The other half are things sounds that you would never make. It's like, okay, gotta learn how to make them.
Wow. Chills. No better way to wrap, Tom. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. If I want to go home, I don't know the way no more.